who ask for the internet connection, just like if suppose you are going to you want to take an internet connection at your home, so you contact to a internet provider. That internet provider will allocate you an IP address. So that IP address is unique. But internally, if suppose for a organization like MS Sabu Siddiq, so we get one ISP, but that ISP is being distributed among 200 users or 500 users. So when I'm going to subnet it, this is called as a subnetting. So while subnetting, I can use my own IP addresses to allocate to these people. So, but while providing internet, whatever the IP address it is given, that is a unique IP address for a particular internet connection. Or if you host any website on the internet, so that particular website is also having a unique identification logical address. Then next addressing called as a port address. So port address is concerned with the processes. So the processes which are running in the computer system, they use a unique port for their communication. For example, if you have mail transmission, so they use a particular well-known port number. I'm not recalling the port number. If you take the example of file transfer protocol FTP or TFTP, they use the 20 and 21 port number. HTTP, if you take, they use the well-known port number 80. So like this, if you have a UDP 67 port number is there. So
some students are waiting for entry.
Waiting for an entry, so they are late joining. Okay, fine. I will admit them. Okay, many more are there, officer? Or is two students have joined? Fine. Okay. So port address is concerned with it is related to a process. So process, when it is communicating for inter-process communication or for communication on the internet, every process has allocated a specific port. So I will talk about this port later on. What is a port address? Then we have a specific address called URL, application specific address. So now you can see this layer diagram. Will you able to see this? So in that, so you can see at the application level, application layer, the processes are running. So they have a specific address which we called as a URL address, application specific address. Then if you move down, transport layer. So at transport layer we have three protocols: UDP, TCP, SCTP. UDP, user datagram protocol; TCP, transport control protocol; SCTP, stream control transport protocol. So now here the transport layer is deals with the port to port communication. So here we use the port addresses. Then next layer we have the network layer. So network layer deals with the IP addresses. So this is logical addressing which we use in a computer system. So that is handled by this network layer. And then at the last, the data link layer and physical layer, which is combined, is called underlying physical network. So at this layer, your physical addressing is used. We called as a MAC address or Ethernet address. Sometime we called it as. So like this hierarchy of addressing is there. So lower level physical, then logical, port address, and then specific address. Okay. Now you can see what is the physical address. First of all, we'll go to the physical address. So physical address is 48-bit address which is written in hexadecimal digits separated by colon. So 48-bit is if you combine, it is called as a 6 byte. So 8 bits is equal to 1 byte. So 48 bits is 6 bytes. So you can see here one example of address is given: 07:0102:01 colon 2C colon 4B. So these numbers are written in hexadecimal digits. So we have this uh, binary numbering system, hexadecimal, binary, BCD, different numbering schemes are there. Then we'll talk about next port address. Okay, what is the port address? So here in the diagram you can see at computer A we have three processes A, B, C, and at computer P, receiver, A is the sender and P is the receiver. So at receiver side we have two processes J and K. So now if sender A computer want to send some data from the application level, it will going to add port called of a process A. So here in the diagram you can see data is getting encapsulated into a packet which is called as a segment, transport layer. So it is having A as a small a as a source port address. Then whom it is sending to receiver, it is sending P, whose process port is J. So source port address is A and destination port address is J. So it is connected to your message, or it is encapsulated with your message, attached with your data, and then it is sent, and that entire packet it is called as a segment. Now that segment is processed to network layer. So in the network layer you can see the entire packet is act as a payload which is being encapsulated with the source IP address and destination IP address. So here you can say it as abbreviation A is written. So A indicates, capital A indicates the source IP address, and we are sending it to P computer. So capital P is acting as a destination IP address. Now sender will add its source IP address, destination IP address, and the payload which is coming from the transport layer, and then this packet is called as a datagram, and it is sent to the receiver. Then at the next level where we have a data link layer, or you can talk about the underlying physical network where we have data link and physical layer. So here this entire message or payload which is coming from the network layer is encapsulated with the header of the data link layer. In that header we are using the physical address of source and physical address of the destination, immediate destination. Now here it is not fixed that your destination header, destination physical address is the computer P address, because the physical address of the P is unaware of computer A, unaware of the physical address of the P. So what it will do, it will send immediate router or any other physical switch is there, or gateway is there. So that gateway or router physical address is act as a sender receiver address. So sender A physical address is added here, and receiver physical address is also added here, and then this packet is sent on the network. So like this addressing is added at each level. Now what is a port address? So port address is a 16-bit number, decimal number you can use. So here your example is given 753 is a one port number is there. So this port number is used by the process. So it's a logical number, you can assume it. Physically it's not hard coded here in the computer. So but for a particular application a port number is fixed. So earlier I talked about that HTTP is having port number 80, FTP use 20 and 21. So there is a range of these ports from 0 to 1024, that is 1024, that are well known port numbers, and then from 1024 to up to 40,000 there are registered port numbers. So the people who want to use a port, they can register for it, like that voice over IP, or the people who are want to start any new process or new application if they are writing for communication, so they can use that port addresses from 1025 to 40,000. Then above 40,000 up to 65,500, and because it's a 16 bit, so 16 bit number, if you keep it 111 all 16 bit, so the number is 65,535. So from 40,000 to 65,534, these are ephemeral ports called as a dynamic ports, and it can be used by any application at any time. So there is no restriction in that, in those port numbers. So only restriction exists in the well-known port number and registered port number. Then we have next part.
Hello, sir. Sir,
Yeah.
some students are waiting, sir, to enter.
Actually, 11:20, sir, I already told anytime the student that they should enroll within 10 minutes. Up to how much time? Will not allow late joining next time. Hello? I request the students, fake, those who are late coming, Akif Sheikh. So I will not going to allow for the next time. So please get admitted within 11 to 10, up to 11:10. I usually wait for 5 minutes so that the students, due to some reasons, may be there. If they get joined due to network problem or something, will allow them up to 11:10. But after 11:10, will not allow admit. Fine. Okay. So now I am talking about this port address. Now we'll move to the next part. Now, what is a IP address? So that is a logical IP address. Now I'm talking about. So here you can see there is a host 1, host 2, and host 3 are there. So here host 1 is communicating to host 3 and host 2. So here IP address of the host 1 you can see 128.119.240.46. Okay. So if suppose he want to communicate with host 3 and host 1, so at different level, application layer, transport layer, network layer, data link layer, physical layer, it will going to use different addressing. So now here at host 3, you can see there are some protocols which are written in blue, that at application layer we use HTTP protocol. At another protocol is FTP, file transfer protocol, SMTP, simple mail transport protocol. We have a Telnet, which is used for remote login. And then at transport layer, just now I explained TCP, UDP, transport UDP, and network layer we have IP protocol. And at the data link layer we have Ethernet and PP. So now where this IP address comes? So IP address is coming at the network layer. So you can. So what is that? Now we'll see what there are two types of IP addresses. One is called as a classful IP address, and second one is called as a classless IP address. So classful IP address, in which we have classes: class A, class B, class C, and class D, and class E. Whereas in classless addressing, we do not have any class. So it is called classless addressing. So you can select any IP address which may be of class A or class B or class C. There is no restriction in that. So what is the benefit of the classful and what is the advantages of classless addressing? We'll see one by one later on. First I will discuss about the classful IP addressing. So now any address, if you take an example of class A or class B or class C, so your address, IP address, is divided into two parts. One first part is called as a network address, and second part is called as a host address. You can call as a network number or host number, here it is written. So if you go for IP version 4 addressing, So the total IP address is 32 bits. You can see here in the, so 32-bit address is divided into network address and host address. Network address indicates the address of the network to which is connected to a internet. Then host address indicates the host addresses which are connected to a network, particular network. Means suppose you take an example of Sabu Siddiq. So in Sabu Siddiq we have, so Sabu Siddiq network is maybe suppose 17 dot, there is one network IP address. Maybe in class B, so maybe it is 175.1.5.3 something is there. So that address, that particular address, now why 175 is of class B or class C, I will tell you later on. So this is the IP address of the Sabu Siddiq 175.1.5.3, which is a 32-bit IP address. Now to this network in Sabu Siddiq we have a 500 users, assume. So their addresses may be 175. First user address will be 175.1.5. Maybe in 5 I can subnet like 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, in that I will going to allocate the people as addresses, or I can take 6.175.1.6.1. Fine. Then we have 6.2, 6.3, 6.4, like this. So you go on making that. Then we have 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, last, I'm talking about the last 2 digits, 2 bytes. So in that manner, you can create as many number of hosts you want. So here at the bottom I shown in the PPT, this type of addressing which is written in ones and zeros, it is called as a dotted decimal notation, binary notation, sorry, 10001000 dot 00001010 dot 0010, like this. So this is a binary notation of the IP address. Then if you convert this binary number into decimal, so that is called as a dotted decimal notation, 145.10.34.3. So this is a decimal notation of the IP address. So next we have a special cases or special addresses. 0.0.0 is a special address which we can use for default router, or we can use it when during startup, or we are want to boot the network. So at that time we use this address as a 0.0.0, which is always used for a network address. Then we have another address, a special case 127.0.0.0, which is called as a loopback address. So it means if you are testing your machine, your local machine sitting on the same PC, so your computer loopback address always it will show 127.0.0.0. If you want to ping your own computer, so you can use this address. Then suppose I want to give a particular address to my same computer, I can give as a all zeros, and I can put all ones if I want to broadcast that message. So if you put a IP address as 0, so I will going to send that message to me only, to the same computer. Now if I want to broadcast to all the computers which are connected in the network, so then you can have to use the sender IP address as all ones. It means 255. If you keep all 32-bit ones, so that address become 255.255.255. So if you know binary notation, so you can convert binary into decimal. So that number is 255.255.255.250. So that address is called as a broadcast address. Now we will move to the next classes of the addressing. So here we have a class A, which is a /8 prefix, we call that. Then we have class B, which is /16 prefix. Now next we have a class C address, which is a /24 prefix. Now what this 8, 16, 24 means? In class A, 8 we have a network ID, network bits are 8 bits, and the rest of the bits out of 32. So 32 minus 8 means 24 bits are used as a host IP addresses or host numbers. 8 bits network numbers, 24 bits host numbers. So due to this, what happen? If you allocate only 8 bits for network, so you have that 8 bits means if you convert it into a decimal number, it is 128. Correct? So here it is written in the PPT 2 raised to 7 minus 2. Here in class A at the adjacent side, you can see 27 minus 2. So you can make 126 networks. Why we have subtracted minus 2? Because 0 network and 255 network is not used. So that's why these two networks we are eliminating. So 22 raised to 27 is 128 number. Okay. So that minus 2, it is 126 network. So in class A, we have 126 network maximum. And each network has these many hosts. How many hosts? Here it is a number. It is a 16 crores, 77 lakhs, 7,214 hosts in one network. So one network handles these many users. 16 crores, 77 lakhs, 72,000 or 7,214 users in each network. So you can imagine how much big network this is, 126 network. So now take the class B. Now we'll take example of class B. So class B is of 16. हाँ.
सर वो -2 वाला बताना नहीं समझा. 2 raised to 7 वो -2 कैसा है वो?
हाँ. 2 raised to 7 minus 2, why we do? Because if you are going to see this special cases, I am talking about these special cases. So 0 is always kept for a specific routing address or network address, and 255, if you keep it all one, so it is 255.255.255, which is a broadcast network. So as 0 and 255, we are exempting from here. Actually 255 means last number is, here it is 128. If you start from 0, the number will go up to 127, correct na? If you start from 0, so up to 127, how many numbers? Total number is 128, correct? So 2 raised to 7 is 128. So if you do minus 2 is why 2? 0 and last number is 127. If you exempt these two numbers, 0 and 127, so total network available will be 126. Are you getting my point?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Why we are removing this 0 and 127? Because 0 is used for network and for some special cases there, and 127 is the last, so we are keeping it reserved for broadcasting something. So here that's why only 126 network we are using, removing 2, and here also in user addresses also you are subtracting -2. So because starting address will be used for network address and the last address is used for the broadcast address. So that's why 2 raised to 24 minus 2 doing. If I did this, then number here. Okay. Then is what is the meaning? 16 bits we are using as a network address. This bits for class A use 8 bits as a network address. In class, hello, is it now, Afsar? Hello.
Yes, sir, it is clear now.
Now am I see this? Okay. Class A using
Again, sir, it's breaking.
So in class B, we use breaking. Now, we are using 16 bits for the address.
Not
So
clear, sir.
32
Not clear.
minus 16. Now, sir. Hello.
Yes, sir, it is clear.
Hello. It is clear. Okay. 16 bit we are using as a network bit, 16 networks and 16 host bits. So 32 is divided into 16 and 16 half. So because of this, what happened? You are 2 raised to 16. So you have 65,535 networks. Fine. But actually we are taking 2 raised to 14 minus 2. We are removing 2 bits. One here is written 10. Here you can see PPT 10. So 10 bit is reserved. So 2 bits you are reserving in class B. So from 16 bits, only 14 bits are remaining. So 2 raised to 14, it is 16,334 networks. So how many networks in class B we have? 16,384 networks. And then each network has 65,534 hosts. So these many number of users you can allocate in one network. And how many networks we have? 16,384 networks in class B. Then we go for class C. In class C we have a 24 bits network ID or network bits, and only 8 bits we keep as a host ID or host numbers. So now out of this 24 network bits in class C, 3 bits we have reserved, 110. So now only the remaining bits are 2 raised to 21. So 2 raised to 21, that number goes to 2 crore 9,07,152 networks you have in class C. And then each network have 2 raised to 8 minus 2, that's 254 hosts. So actual number 2 raised to 8 is 256. If you do 2 raised to 8, then it is 256, but we are doing it minus 2 because 0 is used as a for network address, and 255 we are using as a broadcast address. So the number 2 addresses are gone. If you minus, then 254 hosts you can allocate in each network. So now I can ask the question that out of class B and class C, class A, class B, class C, now usually organization prefer to go for class C. Why is it so? Because, okay, the reason you can see the most preferable addressing scheme is we use class C. Why? Because if you take example, you take IP address of class A and class B. So in class A, we have a 16 crore 77 lakh 7,214 users in one network. Then in class B, you have 65,534 users in one network. So you do not have any organization in the world. Maybe the big organizations are there, just like IBM, HP, they have a head count of 1 lakh employees. Your Google is having those many, maybe 1 lakh employees. But their companies are situated at distributed locations. They are not at one place. So is it feasible for me to have a network of 16 crore 77 lakh 7,214 users in that particular network? If I keep these many users in a one network, then it will be difficult for me to handle those many addresses. And you can same is the thing in the class B. So in class B, in one network, we have 65,534 users. So again, it is a huge number. which is difficult to manage or control. So now why the people prefer go for class C? In class C, we have number of networks are more. So 2 crore 9,07,154 networks we have, but users, we have only 254 users. So organization capacity at the most, if you take a small scale organization or large scale organization, they have the departments. So that department may not have the users more than 200 or 300 users. So why class C is most well-known IP addressing scheme used in the companies, because of this reason, that they have less number of users. If you go for more number of users, then if suppose in your organization have only 5,000 employees, so if I go for class B, I will use 5,000 addresses, and remaining, because how many addresses we have in class B? 65,535. Out of that, 5,000 I am using. So remaining 60,000 IP addresses I am wasting. So to avoid wastage of the IP addresses, in class A and class B, we are preferring to go for class C. Hope you understand, all students, that why we select for class C. Now next IP address we have class D, which is reserved and it is used for IP multicasting. And then we have a class E, which is used for your experimental use. These class A and class E we are not using. We are using class A, class B, and class C address. Okay. Then next, this is a partition of the classful IP addresses. See, your class A 8/8 prefixes. So having network from 1 to 126. Then we have class B. So class B networks are from 128 to 191.255.255.255. The numbers come like this. Then in class C, which is /24 prefix. So the IP address start from 192.0.0. It goes to 223.255. So now see this at the bottom we have class A. Class A is occupying 50% of addresses. Class B is occupying 25% of addresses of total addressing scheme, and class C is occupying 12.5% of the total IP addresses, and class D and class E combined they have 6.25% of IP addresses. So this is about the addressing scheme. Students, if you have any question, you can ask me now. Hello?
Excuse me, sir. Sir, why different bits for different classes?
That is, you are asking about this, you are asking about 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0?
Yes, sir, yes.
Yeah. To make it differentiate from each other, or so to separate out, that for class A we have only one bit as a result, for class B we are reserving 1 and 0, and for class C 1, 1, 0. So you should have some identity to identify the class. If you do not have the identity, then you cannot identify, correct na? So as if you are in the class, you have different roll numbers, correct? If I give the same numbers to all, then how I can differentiate who is who? So here for differentiating them, the reserved bits in the 32 bits, we are keeping 0, first bit 0 as for A class, then 1, 0 for B class, and 1, 1, 0 for C class, like this. So they are made. Then class D we have 1, 1, 1, 0, and then class E all 1. Hope you understand.
बट सर आइडेंटिफाई तो इससे भी किया जा सकता है ना, जैसे हम लोग रेंज दे रहे हैं नेटवर्क नंबर को 21 और होस्ट नंबर को 31 तक, तो इससे भी आइडेंटिफाई किया जा सकता है ना?
हाँ, दैट इज वैलिड एक्चुअली. इससे भी आइडेंटिफाई कर सकते हैं कि भाई 8 दिया है क्लास ए को, class B को 16 bits network bits दिया है, then for class C we have given 24 bits. But if you see the numbering, अगर मैं 8 bit ले लूंगा पूरा suppose, तो मेरा जो नंबरिंग बनेगा 2:8, मतलब क्या होगा 255. तो मुझे जाना पड़ेगा 0 से लेके 255 नंबरिंग. एक्चुअली अपना जो नंबर होल्ड करता है योर, इफ यू टेक 8 बिट 8 बिट 8 बिट, करेक्ट ना? तो 8 बिट 8 बिट मतलब 32 बिट्स है. तो हर एक 8 बिट्स में अगर मैं 2:8 करूंगा तो मेरा नंबर, लास्ट नंबर क्या रहेगा? 256 256 256 256, बराबर? आर गेटिंग?
यस सर.
यस. लेकिन मुझे अभी क्या करना है, आई वॉन्ट टू डिवाइड दिस 256 8 फर्स्ट 8 इनटू 3 क्लासेस. मुझे क्या करना है, ये जो 256 नंबर को है जो पहले 8 बिट में है, पहला जो 8 बिट्स है, तो उसको मुझे क्या करना है कि क्लास ए में डिवाइड करना है. ए के जो रेंज आनी चाहिए वो 0 से लेके 126 तक आनी चाहिए. देन क्लास बी की रेंज इट शुड कम फ्रॉम 127 टू 191. ओके. देन फिर उसके बाद क्लास सी की जो एड्रेसिंग चलोगी 192 से लेके 223 तक जाएगी. फिर क्लास डी जब शुरू होगा तो क्लास डी शुरू होगा 223 से लेके मे बी 239 तक जाएगा. और फिर क्लास ई जो शुरू होगा इट स्टार्ट्स फ्रॉम 240 टू 255. तो इस तरह से मैंने क्या करा, पूरे क्लासेस को कवर किया इसमें 255 256 एड्रेस में. क्लास ए को 1 से 0 से 126 तक दिया है, या 127 यू कैन टेक. फिर वहां से 128 से मैंने इसको स्टार्ट किया है क्लास बी को, फिर क्लास सी. तो ऐसे ये क्या किया है कि पहले 8 बिट्स को इस तरह से हमने 255 से ज्यादा नंबर मैं नहीं लिख सकता, क्योंकि मेरा जो पहला बाइट है वो 8 बिट्स की है. तो अगर 8 बिट्स के ऊपर मैं 300 नंबर लिखूंगा तो वो इट्स नॉट अ करेक्ट नंबर. करेक्ट?
यस सर.
Yes. So that is the reason. Next, any question? Okay, now we'll go for our actual topic, which I want to start, or from our topic, cyber security. Now we'll continue with that. Okay. So maybe the lecture will not go for 2 hours complete. So remaining time, which we'll cover it in the next lecture, that maybe it may go to up to 11:20 or 11:30. So actually I plan for 1 hour lecture, and the remaining 1 hour will take it in the next, maybe on Saturday. I will take it because of the some urgent examination work. So now software keyloggers, where we left, we have 2 types of keyloggers. I told about the keyloggers. What is a keylogger? Keylogger is used for installing or storing the keystrokes which you put on your keyboard. So in that, there are 2 types. One is a software keylogger and another is the hardware keylogger. Okay. So the software, what is a software keylogger? So these are software programs installed on the computer system by a Trojan or viruses, and that is without the knowledge of the users. So these programs get installed on your computer. So maybe that may be done by already from the remote login, or that maybe is come with your virus or with the Trojan, if you open any website or through email, and automatically that program, a spyware program or a keylogger program, gets installed on your computer, and after installing it, it starts its work. So how it works? So this software programs sit between, or it's located between your operating system OS and the keyboard hardware. So whatever you're going to press on the keyboard, actually how keyboard works. So every device which is going to be connected to a computer system, if you take an example of your mouse, keyboard, or webcam, or a printer, they have the device driver software. So driving any hardware, we have a device driver software. That device driver software interprets your keys which you press on the keyboard, and that going to intimate to the operating system, and then operating system will understand those keys and will take the necessary action or process it, and will be going to display on the computer system or where it wants to display it, or going to print it. So that specific meaning of each keyboard is interpreted by this device driver software. So this spyware software or keylogger software will going to sit on this device driver along with this device driver and capture or store this information. So the every keystrokes is being recorded from this. So what cyber criminals do? So they install such tools on computer in the colleges or maybe a local place, just like your cyber cave, where we are using the computers for some urgency. So on those cyber cave or in a public place computer where they are kept, so cyber criminals will install these such tools and they store this or record this information. So there are two types of files which are existing in the keyloggers. So one is called as a, they are installed in the same directory. One is called as a dynamic link library DLL file. When program is being executed, you need some library and which is a dynamically linking. So these DLL files are there. And another file we have a exe executable file. So these two files gets installed. Now exe file is going to install this DLL file and trigger it to work, start to work for storing information with the support of the library which is there in that keylogger. So DLL does the all recordings of these keystrokes. So now there are some examples of the software keyloggers. So here one software is there, www.softcentral.net is a software keylogger. From there you can download. So what it does, it secretly record the computer activities. So such as email, chat conversations, and whatever surfing you do, visited websites. So these activities are being recorded by this software keyloggers. Then we have another software keyloggers, spyguide.net, that is called as SpyBuddy, spysoftware.htm. So it has some special features, this software has. So it can capture the internet conversations, disk activity logging. Then it also capture the Windows activity logging, whatever you do on Windows. Then whatever application you run, application activity logging is also done. Print document logging, website activity logging, and then screenshot capturing also possible through this software keyloggers. Then we have another called as a mykeylogger.com software. It is called as a powered keylogger because in a company it is used for surveillance. Then it can also monitor the employee productivity, how the employees are doing their work. So employees are unknown that there are some software which are installed on the servers or on their computer which are connected, and their activity is being captured or monitored by somebody else. So for network administration also these software keylogging softwares are used. So shared PC activity tracking is also done with this. So my request to the students or the budding engineers, that if you are going to work in any organization or a company, just like multinational companies, so please be cautious while doing the work on your organizational computers or laptop. So apart from work, please don't do any activity which is suspicious to the organizations. So that will going to let you people lose the job. So you can do on your personal computers whatever you want to do, but please be cautious or be careful, because the company has some spyware software or surveillance system through which they are tracking your work. So even though you cannot see, like that nobody is watching you. Then next, hardware keylogger is there, second type. Now for hardware keylogger we need the physical access to the computer system. So that is along with the hardware, it is installed on the computer system, and it is physically connected to PC or keyboard, and a specific software along with that is there which is installed on the computer system. And then this device starts, whatever keystrokes you press, that will going to be stored into a file or into a memory of the hard disk. So usually cyber criminals install such devices at the ATM machines, on the ATM, to capture the ATM pins along with this ATM keyboard, and then they do this cyber offense. So while doing some transactions at the ATM, so please see that maybe any device is connected, maybe wirelessly or wired device, which is going to capture your pin information. So you can see, to want to get more information about the hardware keyloggers, there are websites www.keyghost.com, then we have keylog.com, keydevil.com, then keycatcher.com. So these are the websites through you can serve more information. Then what is the anti-keylogger? So anti-keylogger it does the reverse job, means it will detect the keylogger software which are installed on your computer system. So you can remove that. So anti-keylogger is a tool that can detect the keylogger installed on the computer system, and also can remove that tool. So for getting more information about the keylogger, we have anti-keylogger.com as a website through which more information we can get it. Now, advantages of the anti-keylogger. So first advantage is it is used for detecting the keylogger. Whatever, if suppose on a computer there are some keylogger softwares are installed, so you can identify them. And the keylogger, the speciality of the keylogger is that they cannot be detected by the firewall. So they only can be detected by this anti-keylogger software. Okay. Second, they does not require regular updates. Just like we have antivirus software requires signature basis to work effectively. So that is the advantage of this anti-keylogger. Then they help us to prevent the internet banking frauds, which because of happen stealing the key password and user ID and password. Then it also prevents the ID theft. Just like if Gmail I am opening, so Gmail ID and password gets hacked by this keylogger. Then it also secure emails and instant messaging, chatting also can be served with these anti-keyloggers. Okay. Then next tool we have, which is used for the attacking the computer, is called the spywares. So what is a spyware? It is a part of this keylogger unknowingly installed on the computer system, and there is no knowledge, the user has no knowledge about that. So spyware is a type of malware that is installed on the computer system which collect the information about users without their knowledge. So keylogger is also called as a spyware software also. So they may be installed on by owner of the shared corporate or public computers. So if suppose in a organization you have a network of shared devices, so then your keyloggers can be installed easily on those computers. Or in a net cafe, the owner of that net cafe can also put a keylogger, can also install this spyware software for the purpose of secretly monitoring the users which are coming to the internet. internet using. So what is this spyware does? So spyware programs collect the personal information about the users, victims, such as what surfing they do, internet surfing habits, what are their habits, what is the pattern. Usually when they visit the internet, first what they see, whether they check the mail or whether they watch the YouTube videos or whether they go for some downloading songs, movies like that. So what category there, what is their choice, whether they do some online purchasing or something. So there are different choices of different individuals. So when they sit on the internet, maybe some people have a habit of making some videos or seeing video games, playing video games online. So it help us to understand the habits of the people. Then spyware also, uh, um, what it does, it will going to change the settings of the computer. It has the ability to change that. So because of that, what happen, if the computer setting gets changed, then your computer gets slow down, and you find that if you want to open any application, it is not getting open. It gives us that your internet connection is slow. So these spyware software, when they change their settings, your Chrome settings or computer system settings, then your internet connection getting slow. So there are some spyware softwares. So what are their key features? So www.espysoftware.com. From there you can have a spyware software. So what is the key feature of this software? Its capability of overriding the anti-spy programs. If you have any anti-spy programs, it will overcome that. Then it will going to record all websites URL visited by the user on the internet. Then it can also capture the user ID and password from the your email or from your debit card, your online banking system. And you can view the logs remotely from anywhere at any time. Okay, so don't need to be at any time we can observe. Then next tools we have for attacking that viruses and worms. Okay, so virus, what is a virus? So virus is a computer virus is a program that infect the legitimate program. So if you have a genuine program which is running, so it will going to affect that program by modifying some features of that and give you the updated or modified copy of that program itself. So it will going to harm your original programs. So how it spreads? So it spreads without the knowledge or permission of the user, and it can spread. It's a damage or disaster is that it can pass. It can affect the large number of programs which are running in the computers, or sometimes to the machines which are connected to the network. So it's spreading is very fast. So automatically it will going to harm each program one by one, and at the end the whole machine is being infected with this virus. So this virus is similar to a human virus, biological virus, which passes from one person to another person, just like this corona is there. So is one of the virus, plague is there. So how human being come in touch or contact with the diseased person, then this virus is being affected. So here, if computer programs come in touch, or the computer network, what are the different computer connected to that network, they also get affected with this virus. So what is this inside this? We have some malicious instructions in this virus that going to damage your programs. So now when this virus is being infected to your computer, there is no visible symptoms you will going to see. So normally it will not show immediately some symptoms, but at the end when you got it is getting affected, then totally your computer gets damaged. So without any readable visible symptoms, this virus are getting infected or spread in the computer system. Now these viruses can start and event driven effects also, and the time driven effects also. Means for a particular event this virus get activated and they do their job and again goes into the sleeping mode. And maybe some of the viruses, depending upon the time, they gets driven. Maybe on every Friday, every Monday, there is an attack. With the time, these viruses trying to affect the computer programs. And there are some random viruses also. They can affect at any time, at any event. So now I will stop here. So next 1 hour lecture, we will schedule it in the next week for compensation of that. Now I request the students to put their attendance on the chat so that I can take the note of this. I want to call out the last attendance. If anybody is missing, please let me know. Afsar, am I audible? Hello? Hello? Afsar? Afsar Bhagwan. Okay, Danish Ansari. Afsar is not there, I think.
Yes,
Afsar
sir.
Bhagwan. Okay, Danish. I will call out the last numbers, last lecture numbers. So, request the students, if anybody is missing, please let me know. So, last lecture attendance was Asif Ansari was present. Aziz Patrawala was there. Danish Ansari, Faik Golandas, Om Satam, Aslam Usman, Hamza Hussain, Irfan Sheikh, Mohsin Bash, Musab, then Ramiz, Rizwan Khan, Rotvik, Saad Ansari, Saad Faki, Saurabh, Shweta, then we have Saurav, Tawheed, Yusuf, and Zaid. Anybody else remaining which is present now?
Sir, Danish. Akif, sir.
Sorry, Akib. Okay. Another one?
Sir, Danish Sheikh.
Danish Sheikh. Okay.
Abdul Samad. Sir, Arsalan.
Last lecture you were present, Arsalan? Arsalan?
No, sir.
Hello? No, na? Okay, so don't. Last lecture, I am taking last lecture. 2 students are missing, or 2, 3. So I just only want.
Sir Jyotsna.
Jyotsna was there.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Shall I ask question, Jyotsna?
Sir, Ayman.
Sir, I was there,
Ayman.
but
Huh. Shall I ask question to you now? What I took? Honestly, give the answer, please.
I was there, but I just attended lecture. I don't remember.
Don't remember. Okay. Ayman was there.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you were there. Okay. So can you tell me, Ayman, what we have taken?
Sir, 1 week ago the lecture was, I don't remember.
Only Saturday we took. On Saturday. Last lecture was on Saturday.
Still, sir.
Still. Okay. So give honestly, keeping knowing that Allah is knowing everything. Okay. Fine. So now put your attendance now in chat, please. So I will note it down. Thank you for attending the lecture. And now you can leave. Once you put the attendance on chat, you can leave or if something you want to ask, you can ask.